let's talk property, shall we? Because have you seen the latest proposal from the Labour Party? It's all about basically compulsory purchase orders for land. You have something at the moment called, and this is a tricky one for my accent, I confess, but a hope value, which is basically the potential value of what you could make on your land if you were to develop on it. Labour have got a bright idea. What they're saying is that essentially you could give councils the power to buy that land at the cheap rate, i.e. not the potential rate. It's all about boosting house building. What do you make to it, Aaron?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, it's broadly more aligned with the approach in Germany, where they do build more homes. They don't have the housing crisis or a housing crisis on a par with what we have. And there's also a historic precedent. So immediately following the Second World War, there were lots of compulsory purchase orders, and there was obviously a mass increase in the stock of housing in this country. So that
was the post-war scenario was in response, direct correlation to the fact that a lot of homes had been bombed. We were in an emergency situation. That wasn't like the BAU business as usual dynamic.
No, of course. But I think the point here is that there is a proposal being made which has some analogue both in the past and in the present, but elsewhere. And it's very easy. We all do it. But I think, look, lots of lobbyists and NGOs do it more than anybody else. It's very easy to poo-poo proposals and say, that won't work, this won't work. Well, let's try something. You know, it's like if you have a problem in your personal life, you try one thing, if it doesn't work, you try another, you try another, you try another. And yet what we have with regards to the housing crisis is don't try anything. I think let's try it. Let's have a Labour government after 2024. If it doesn't work, then we'll try something else. But clearly, the problem is a huge one. It needs to be addressed.
Would you be happy then if you owned some land for whatever reason for the government of the day to randomly come along and say, right, we're going to buy your land at the price that it is today. We're going to completely disregard the fact that actually you could potentially develop on this and quadruple and then some your value. Would you be cool with that if it was your land?
I think in certain instances, the public interest transcends personal interest for sure. And I think I would say, if I was to put myself in that person's shoes, I would want an appropriate and a fair price. And of course, that may not be the top price. And I suppose the distance between what's considered appropriate and fair and the top price, there can often be a lot there.
Well, I definitely want the top price for my land. I'm not going to lie about that. You, Ben Habib, you are a property titan. This is your forte. What do you make today?
Well, I think this is... If this is a genuine policy from the Labour Party, it is them revealing themselves, not just to be socialist, but communist. It's the daftest policy I've heard come out of the Labour Party, and I'll tell you why. Underpinning the integrity of investment in the United Kingdom, the reason the UK has been for years such an attractive investment proposition for the world is because you've got secure property rights in the UK. When you buy something in the UK, you own it. The government doesn't turn up like a banana republic, like some kind of upstart state, and take it off you just because they have another initiative for it. The notion that the government should have the right across the board to confiscate land for whatever motive is one that has to be highly resisted. There are some compulsory purchase orders already allowed.
Yeah, for like HS2 and stuff.
Yeah, for HS2, for national projects, for strips of land down the side of a road and that kind of thing. But you have to pay full market price. You often don't get it. You have to pay full market price. There's no suggestion that you wouldn't get the value of the land subject to planning. And this would drive a coach and horses through the belief that if you buy things in England, in the United Kingdom, you are secure. And if you drive a coach and horses through that, you've undermined the entire capitalist model for the UK. And actually, it's very similar, Michelle, to the subject we were just discussing, North Sea oil, for example, where Keir Starmer wants to ban oil licenses, the drilling of new wells and new gas reserves. And, you know, they've been vitriolic against the oil and gas industry, the Labour Party. They've been up in arms in the Commons wanting even more. It's the most highly taxed industry there is. People are just going to stop doing business in the UK if they're continually attacked. And this is socialism gone mad.
Well, you say it's might even sniff of communism. And in Mao's era, they had this thing, the land reform movement, I think it was called, where basically they did take this land off the landlords. I mean, they got a bit carried away and they did actually go on to kill the landlords. So perhaps I'm not likening it too much to that.
Keir Starmer won't do that, I think.
No, well, you say...
Not yet.
Not yet. There is a slippery slope. Don't you worry that this is just this whole notion of it's almost like pitting people against aspiration. That's how I feel about the Labour Party. That's one of my challenges with them.
Often I agree with you about the aspiration thing, but I actually think this is the complete opposite, because what we're seeing with regards to housing is the death of aspiration and the failure to reproduce the middle class in this country. Under 45s are generally less likely to own their own home. And I think overall home ownership in this country peaked around the early 2000s. It's around 9% lower today. And I think people in their late 30s now are 3 times more likely to rent than they were 20 years ago. So, and we probably all agree on this. There's a challenge there, so how do you address it?
It's very easily addressed.
But
How?
I would just say one final point, sorry. Before
He's going to fix it.
I'm sure he won't persuade me, but I would say one more thing as well, Ben, and you're saying about a challenge to property rights. The biggest challenge we have to property rights in this country today is inflation. Because if you have an asset here worth X, it's losing 10% over a set period of time right now with regards to inflation. We have interest rates are going up. So if you are, if you owe lots of creditors and you're highly leveraged, that's also a real attack on your wealth. So I think to say, given interest rates where they may go in the next 6 months, given inflation, to say that the biggest challenge to somebody with a large portfolio of assets, the biggest challenge is maybe Keir Starmer and CPOs, I think that's a bit of a stretch.
I think no. It's not. I'm not identifying it as a specific economic challenge. It will pull the rug out from confidence in the United Kingdom. It will destroy confidence in the United Kingdom. If you think, and by the way, if they start buying land off you at below market price, before you know it, they're going to be buying derelict blocks of flat for refurbishment and redevelopment, and then they'll move on to big houses, which they think should be blocks of flats, and you've driven a wedge through confidence in the UK. It is madness. And I just want to finish. We have had 25 years of unbridled attack on Anglo-Saxon capitalist system. We are progressively becoming more and more socialist, and the evidence is clear. We see it. National debt at a historic high, taxes at a historic high, inflation out of control, public sector broken, unemployment rising, an inability to match jobs that are vacant with people who are not in jobs. The whole system is breaking, and it is breaking under the weight of socialism. And this would be almost the final straw, if you like. And it wouldn't result in new houses being built. It wouldn't work. So because the government is useless at doing anything. What they have to do...
Hang on. What they have to do, I'm going to pause on that cliff edge, right? Because Ben Habib, he's got the answer. He's just told us he's got the answer.